little bee sucks the blossom, the big bee gets the honey. The little man raises the cotton, the big man gets the money.
Well, I was born in Waleeka, Oklahoma in 1928, moved to Oregon when I was a sophomore in high school.
I think he came from a very humble childhood. I think of Grapes of Wrath, I'm sorry, but I do. They were very poor, and very family-oriented.
I think they moved to Oregon, and from Oregon back to Bakersfield, and like that through there, just finding work where he could.
They were short of hands, so I was lucky and I got into Local 12. I was a catch skinner, scraper hand, in fact, whatever they needed, really.
Old DW-20s and 21s there were, you knew you put in a day when you worked them all day long.
I was working at the trade in Bakersfield. There was an opening for the Bakersfield building trades.
Bill himself had worked for the building trades in Bakersfield, so he has a pretty good understanding of the lead role that the operating engineers played, not only within the building trade but in state politics.
I learned more about what the other building trade unions wanted, needed, and their background and what they expected.
The reason I supported Bill, he was approachable, you could talk to him, and the next time you seen him, he would say, "Hi Ron, I remember you."
I decided to run for business manager in 1975, and the election was in 76.
I think he got 71 of us together on his campaign crew. He stood up on the back of trucks or stood up on anything that he could get on.
Bill was standing on the back of a pickup truck, and we raffled that pickup truck off, and if I remember correctly, we had to push it out of there.
Anything I get an audience, I don't care where I was at, standing on a bed of a pickup, or or gathered around for lunch, whatever.
Originally, he won by 10 votes, and then they recounted the votes, and he won by 20. We called him Landslide Bill.
I couldn't have been elected every 3 years since 1976 if I didn't have a lot of support from this membership, and I'll never forget it. I'll never forget it as long as I live.
I miss you, darling, more and more every day.
Faded love.
Faded love.
Faded love.
My favorite musician has always been Bob Wills. Of course, I grew up in the period of time that he started, and he started with nothing and made, he's the king of Western music.
And he would sing all the time, waking up singing in the morning.
I like practically all country Western musicians because I read their background and I know they come up the hard way. They really did come up the hard way.
Believe me, from the first moment that I heard that accent, I knew immediately that this was a cat who would understand my accent and who would understand almost everything that I was about. And so it was a fun connection between two Southerners, one of whom was black, but one of whom was white, but they were basically soulmates coming from the same region.
His political influence is unreal. Everywhere we go, he knows somebody and people know him.
You've had an impact on the entire 2 states. I can talk about what you've done in Nevada, and it's been astounding and outstanding.
I haven't got time for a lot of BS, so tell me what it is, and let's see if we can resolve it.
Even in the down times, Bill was hustling on the streets, pushing for projects. And we've had some tough times, but he was always looking forward.
We really did want to make this state a fabulous place, and I frankly think we did.
When I became business manager, Local 12 was broke. You can't make any improvements until you get your financial situation under control.
I think when I started to work for him, the contribution to the apprenticeship was 20 cents. And I think when I left, it was 85.
When he took over, there was nothing. It was just a bunch of ragtag equipment that didn't even fit into the industry, really.
from the time he took over in 1976. That program took off. We bought equipment that was up to date that people could train on. Yeah, the apprenticeship program and the program we have today was built through him and Bert Tolbert.
He's built an organization that is so stable because the foundation is so strong. They could withstand any kind of challenges that we may face in the future.
Bert Tolbert was one of the first guys that I hired when I was elected in 1976. Bert said it would take about it.
He's the shrewdest, slyest bargainer, I'm sure, anywhere.
He's always looking for the little string to pull to unravel it to where you can get the best on the contractors to get the best agreement you can.
He's already 3 moves ahead of them in the chessboard before they even figure out there's a game going on.
The employer said, Ron, he says, when I got in this business, my company put me on the negotiating committee. He says, I was in there, we had our own proposal and all that, and he says, as soon as Waggoner took over speaking, he says, we got our ass kicked.
He's always had the same focus, represent the membership, don't lie to them.
They're the greatest that I've ever been around. They're the greatest that I've ever been around. I've never went into a fight with the employers or any other fight, and I asked them for their help. I've never been refused. Never been refused.
We always called him our boss, but he says, look, he says, I got over 20,000 bosses. The membership was always his boss.
But he's honest with them, and that's what counts. If you get up and tell him like it is, he's always said, don't ever, brush it over. Tell it like it is. And they respect that.
Bill's first love, obviously, is the operating engineers Local 12. I knew that 30 years ago when I married him, and it's true even now.
Most important lesson my father ever taught me was to always keep my integrity. If you lose your integrity, you don't have anything left.
Very loyal, very loyal. You just couldn't find a more loyal person than what he was.
He knows more people than anybody I know. One time I was on an elevator with him. There were probably 8 strangers on the elevator with us. And by the time we got down to the bottom, he knew everybody. It was like saying goodbye to old friends.
My Aunt Tony always said about Gino, his brother, and of course my father, that they'd talk to a dead dog, if they could talk to him.
When people come into the building, when people come into Local 12, when there's any function that Bill's at, that's his personality. He loves talking to people.
He'll walk into a restaurant and walk into the kitchen and talk to the cooks and the staff back there.
Hello, Bill. Good luck. Thanks for everything.
We love you and go Sooners.
Get your heads down. Water balloons.
Not a better picture.
Water balloons.
There'll never be another one like him. I'll put it like that.
His legacy is the foundation of this local union.
His life is Local 12. It's not a job to him. It's a way of life.
I've elected the bear as Local 12's mascot, and so when I leave, the bear stays, and Ron Sikorski he can take care of the bear from there on.
Yeah, I've got to keep the bear. The bear belongs to Local 12.
As long as the unions are doing great, I'll tell you what, this is going to be a better country to live in. And that's the way I sum it up, and that's the way it is.
Thanks, Mr. Waggoner, for keeping our union strong.
Thank you for everything, Mr. Waggoner.
Thanks a lot, Bill Waggoner, for all you've done for our union and our members.
Thanks, Mr. Waggoner, for all the hard work and dedication you've done for the Local 12 operators.
Thank you, Grandpa, for everything you've done for the Cystic Fibrosis Foundation.
That's the way it is.
Gather round, boys, let's all lose a little here now.